Hi guys, it's Sunday night, 9 p.m., my usual. I wanted to talk about a few breakthroughs that I've had tonight. So I was thinking about the word control and how many effects that it can have in our life, both good and bad. And just kind of wanted to talk about how we think, how the world runs on control. There's so many people out there where our main motto is freedom, right? And I think it's because so many people in the world strive and really hunger for being able to have control over something. And especially people who have gone through traumatic events and things like that, be able to yearn for having control over something in their life. Usually when somebody goes through something traumatic, they feel like they've had that control taken away from them. And so sometimes they can be in a whirlwind of going in a direction where not so good things happen just so that they can feel like they have some control in their life. So I kind of had one of those aha moments with my oldest daughter. I think it was yesterday. She was getting really frustrated and angry, and her and her brother were fighting nonstop, and my weekends start to get kind of a little bit anxious for me now that I do my trauma therapy on Mondays, because it means that I'm getting ready for something super, super hard. And so my oldest daughter, McKenna, was hiding in my closet, and she was sobbing. And I was getting kind of frustrated because I got so sick and tired of hearing them yell at each other. So I go in my closet, I sit down next to her, and I decided I'm going to be a calm mom right now, and I'm just going to see what the heck's going on. Now, I've noticed with her becoming a teenager, teenagers really love and hope and want for control. And they feel like that's taken away from the parents because we say a lot of no's. They want so badly to be an adult and have adult things and no rules and stuff so that they can be themselves and be able to learn what control feels like. And then us parents, on the other hand, tend to control that with them because we want them to make good decisions. We don't want them to become like we did, so that some of us do everything we can to keep them from turning into what we were as a kid or a teenager. So I'm finding myself doing that a lot. Now, I have been very unaware, and I'll get back to this in a second. I've been very unaware of my actions and what they mean until I've started doing this therapy. And little bit by little bit, tomorrow will be my 4th visit, little bit by little bit, I'm starting to notice what my actions mean, what my emotions mean, what everything's tied to, why I respond and react the way that I do. And I've been able to kind of slow things down before I say something, rather than say something and then trying to figure out how to clean up the mess that I created. So as I went in to go sit down and talk to her, I realized that she just needed a listening ear, and she was sobbing hysterically. Now, we've asked her over and over and over again, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? She's totally changed as a teenager. We used to be super, super best friends, and now I would have to say I feel like that part of us is a little bit still there, but things have kind of distanced because, the hormonal changes and everything. Anyway, so as she's sitting there crying and I'm waiting for her to open up to me, she finally does and explains to me that she's struggling with friends and she doesn't know who she is and what she stands for in life. And that was like an aha moment. I looked at her and I started crying. She kind of looked up at me a little bit shocked that here we are both boohooing in my closet, because I have a big closet. And I said, do you feel safe in here? And she kind of looked at me confused. She's like, well, yeah. And I says, how come? She's like, well, I don't know. And I says, I feel safe in here too. This is where I come to cry or to pray or whatever it is that I have to do. It just feels secluded and it's like its own room. And then all of a sudden, I don't know how this came about with my mind or everything. I guess because of all the therapy we've been doing, it's cleaning out those rooms so I have more rooms to feel love and compassion. And I said to her, she's been begging for a really, really, really long time to be able to decorate her room. Now, for those of you that know me, decorating is my life. It's my hobby, and I didn't realize how controlling I am at decorating. And kind of it can be in a bad way in some instances, okay? I mean, the woman of the house is supposed to decorate, yada, yada, yada. In my mind, that's what I've always thought. Well, I've decorated my kids' rooms. I've spent money and years and time painting and putting everything that I have into these special rooms for my kids to absolutely enjoy. And at the time, they love, love, love them. Well, now that she's a teenager, we lived here for almost 5 years, she wants her room different because right now it's different shades of pink. And I've gotten so angry with her, not even thinking, my brain not even going to a rational state of mind in this and thinking logical. I just think about money signs. I don't want to spend money again. I don't want to have to paint it again. I mean, 2 years ago, we just barely repainted the room and remodeled everything. It was still the same, but anyways, it was touch-ups. And so out of all times, I yell at her saying, if you wanted to replace it, it should have been then and not now. And so she has gotten to the point where she's been scared to even ask me about redoing her room because that control part of me comes out. Well, I'm starting to learn that the control part of me comes out because I had no control over 32 years of my life. Now, a lot of you guys will probably argue with that, but the thing is traumatic after traumatic after traumatic thing happened to me in my life. Well, how could that happen? We'll talk about that another day. The thing is after so much time of not being able to feel like I had control over my life, it got to the point where as an adult, where I realized that, oh, I'm in these shoes now of being a parent. I get to say what happens. I get to say what goes. So I get to be the one in control. The bad thing about that is I'm not letting my family be my family and my kids be my kids. They should be able to have kind of a say-so in how they decorate their room and being able to have some of the friends that they have. We get a little bit of choice in that. I'm not saying freedom, freebies, but all of a sudden, as we're sitting there in my closet, I was like, why in the world am I choosing what color her room gets to be? Why am I choosing what color of bedspreads and getting so angry and upset about something that it's not life or death? And she doesn't feel safe in her room. And I asked her, I'm like, why don't you feel safe in your room? She says, because it doesn't feel me. Well, think about that, guys. If you're being told what to do all the time and you're being controlled, or you were as a kid, I know somebody that's very, very close to me that had that happen with their parents all the time. They were controlled all the time. If they spilled milk, they would get smacked and they'd have to drink it off the floor. If, certain things like that happen, they would get in trouble. They had to work nonstop and never have the opportunity to do anything. Now, that is the bad kind of control. And then as we get as adults, we tend to say to ourselves, I don't ever want to be like my parents were with me, for the ones that have had traumatic experiences as a kid. And so then we do one of two things. We give them everything and anything so that they can have what we never got to have, but it's materialistic things. Or we end up being very aggressive and angry and reserved and things like that with them because of the things that we've gone through, or we don't want them to turn into little brats, so we keep things from them. Or in my situation, the reason why I am so pushed back from loving on my kids And I don't like being that way, but I've never known how to change that or what's caused that. But now that I'm learning these things and being able to see what causes my responses to my kids, what causes me to want to have control, the things that I'm trying to control, I'm starting to realize that takes the fun away from growing up and being a child. Because when they get older, they're going to starve so much for that control that they can do bad things or they can do good things. And hopefully it's good, but I won't be able to control that when they're older. So when we learn our limitations and our good limits on good and bad control, it's so super important, because if you love your kids or you love your family or your spouse, it works with your spouse as well, you've got to be willing to allow them to be them to a certain extent in a healthy balance. So we've been learning about this a lot with counseling a lot. So what ended up happening yesterday as we're talking about it, I mean, her eyes got so wide and so big when I said, well, why don't we make your room a safe place? Because I could empathize, and that little part of me was cleaned out from therapy, and I had that little bit of room in my brain to feel some more empathy towards my child. I was able to look at things from her side of view. I was able to be a teenager with her and kind of be able to think about, well, if I was back at this age, what did my mom allow me to do? What would have helped me to feel safe and good and happy and wanting to come home after school after a really hard day, an awful day with friends not being there or whatever, is my room would need to feel safe. And I thought about, oh, does my room feel safe now as an adult? What have I done to make my room feel safe now as an adult? So I asked her, I says, what do we need to do to make your room feel safe? And she says, Mom, I want so badly to paint it. I want to be able to change the decorations. Well, if you guys have ever seen a room, it is so blasted gorgeous. It is so pretty, and so much work and money has been put into it. But it felt so freeing. I was able to look at her and be like, okay. Sesame Street characters. I don't know about that. But she was able to decide. I let her decide. And being able to let go of that control of myself in a safe and respectful and legit way, it felt so freeing for me. And that bond that was created between her and I for those short few moments that we were talking was amazing. Her whole entire countenance and love and excitement towards me changed. And she was willing to listen to the things I was telling her about that I was struggling with, and how I apologized for trying to control what, different things were in her life, and how I'm working really hard at becoming a better mom and a better wife and a better person in general. And she actually started to care what I had to say. So now she wants that for Christmas. She wants to be able to start looking at how to decorate a room. Of course, there's going to be a limit. So that part of control's okay. That's the part you need to do, is to be a parent and not completely 100% a friend where they know how to step all over you. Another thing I've been able to let go of control over, not to the full 100% extent, but I would say about 95% now from this therapy, is my kitchen. And I still can't put my finger on why I feel like I have to control what goes on in the kitchen. But my husband has started cooking in there, and usually I would just panic and freak out and get angry when things are put in the wrong spot, and I would make sure that everybody in the family was listening and that they came over to look exactly where it needs to go, and didn't realize how OCD I was about that, and didn't care to change it either. And now it's to the point where a few weeks ago, this was huge for me. A few weeks ago, I let my kids bake in my kitchen, all three of them. I let them make the biggest mess. There was eggs dripping onto the floor. There was, stuff all over. There's flour everywhere. And I have a really hard time of people wasting food and stuff. And so my 6-year-old doesn't even know what she was doing, and I knew that she was going to waste 2-3 cubes of butter, and that was going to cost us money, and yada 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 yada. It meant that letting them bake in my kitchen was taking control away from me, but that it was okay, that it wasn't something that was going to hurt me. It wasn't something that was going to make me necessarily lose my hat or whatever like it would before, because I was able to sit there and tell myself, okay, this is okay. They are baking. Let them have fun. Let them make memories. And they come back at it and they're like, Mom, that was so much fun. We should do it again. They're begging to cook dinner and things like that. And I realize, spilled milk is spilled milk. You can just buy another gallon of milk and get over it and not let it be a big deal. So these things are big deals for me because I'm starting to learn how to let go of an okay part of me that needed control. Now, that other part of me that needs the control of being able to have a voice and being able to say how I feel, being able to say how I think is another huge thing that has been so super hard, because for the longest time, if I ever said anything about what I was going through or abuse or any of that, I could hurt some family members. I could cause some problems. I could really cause some awful situations. And I've seen that again and again, even recently. But I'm starting to learn that I don't have to bash anybody, but I don't have to keep my mouth shut anymore because of embarrassment or what people are going to think or whatever that is. That part of control feels so good to have gone, because now I have a voice and I can say and do and think and feel whatever I want with whomever I want. I can talk about the awful things that happen to me. I can go out there and help other people and parents and spouses and marriages or friendships or whatever it is, because I have that part of control over me. Now, if people out there in the world learned the right way to have control, we wouldn't have all these wars. We wouldn't sit there and freak out over who's president and this, that, and the other. There has to be, yes, order and things like that. But if people learn that some control is okay and what control is okay and some control isn't, and everybody was willing to back down when they should and stand up for what they should do instead, we wouldn't have so much anger and hostility and killing and murdering and drugs and alcohol abuse and things like that out there in the world. No, my words is not going to be out there to control what anybody else out there does. And it's frustrating, especially when you get out on the road and you want so badly to control some of the stupid drivers out there. But yet, think about it. Sometimes we're that stupid driver. Now think about, who is in charge of the steering wheel in your life? Is it you or is it somebody else? And if you think it's somebody else, maybe you need to take a little bit of a deeper look into what type of things you need to let go in order to resolve things in your life, and what type of things you need to stand up for and speak for. I'm so grateful for the opportunity my oldest daughter, taught me yesterday with letting go of control, because it allows her to be her. Now, yes, we set boundaries, and that's what you have to do when you're coming across something like that. I told her, I said, you can't paint your room black, okay? Or no awful yucky colors. But you get to be in charge of Jake, you get to be in charge of what you do and set those healthy limitations and boundaries for yourself. I was thinking today, oh man, I have not received anything yet from these 3 visits that I've gone to from this therapy, and it was getting super, super frustrating because I myself in my own body and mind, can't feel or see the changes that are happening. But sometimes our kids are there to remind us of what we need to do to change and shape ourselves in life in order to be a better parent and a better person. So those opportunities that I just had recently have kind of shown me that I've been able to kind of step back and let go of some things and be able to relax a little bit and realize that the area and the space that I am has been what I've made for myself with along the help of the tools that I've been given. And it makes it up for a lot more healthier life and way of living. So, I support whatever you guys decide with your children, but this is what it's been for me. And man, if this is what three times 3 weeks has taken for me, I can't wait to see what a few months has done for me. But boy, is this time going slow. It's been super tough, but I'm realizing it's gonna be worth it. I'm grateful for all the support that I've been given. And it'll be interesting. I'll have to post pictures of what Kenna decides to decorate her room as, and I'll have to show you a picture of what it used to look, or what it looks like now, and you'll see kind of why I'm like, oh, I don't want you to change it. But a healthy relationship with your family makes all the difference. So learn where your boundaries need to be set and learn what type of control is healthy. Have a good night, guys.